So they need a document that they can edit, and most of the time, and particularly in this case, that's a Word document that they would like to have this in. Word is not a great program for designing, so that's not the way I would approach this. If you're really familiar with Word and want to do it, that's fine, but I think your better option is to create your cover page in InDesign. On that 4-page document, and this is in the prospectus, you can review that. There are just a couple things you're going to need to provide. You need to provide a cover page, and you need to provide a back page that's reserved for special things. Thanks for, to, I guess, individuals who support the program, special thanks to particular people or different entities. So that will be what happens on the back page. And also you need the CETL logo on the back page, which I will provide you with when I've got that. The inside is a bunch of information that we don't have that will be filled in later by the client. So the insides on these are going to be blank pretty much, unless you decide you'd like to design some sort of background for the inside, but they can pretty much be left blank at this point. So the main thing we're going to do in InDesign is the front cover page. Now, I've got, there's particular info that has to be on the front cover page. It's got to have the name of the event, Celebration of Student Achievement. You've got to have the date and time. The last thing you need is the logo for Scholars Day, which will be uploaded in the logos portion of this assignment on Brightspace. What you'll do is you go to Place, and after you've downloaded that logo, it's called Scholars Day logo. Download the EPS file. That's going to give you the best quality and also gives you some transparency. So select the EPS file and hit Open. And what you'll see is it shows you a little preview of the image. And what you can do is you can click and drag, and it will drag it proportionally so it doesn't distort. So I can think about how big I want that and drag it, and there, boom, it's ready to go. All right, so, and again, I've got all this on one layer to simplify it for you. So these are 3 elements that absolutely positively have to be here. You can add some other stuff. If you want to somehow incorporate a photograph into this layout, you can do that. You could, there's an opportunity to use the Wesleyan logo, but it's already in the Scholars Day logo, so I would not double up on that. That kind of does the job right there. So these 3 things are what have to be on the page. If you look in the swatches, I've got these 3 colors set up for you. That's the official Wesleyan purple, the official medium gray that university uses, and the official light gray. So those are colors you should probably stick with unless you're going to do like a color photograph or something like that. Or if you've got something else really elaborate planned, that's fine too. But if you're going to use the purple to represent the college, use Wesleyan purple. Same with gray, medium gray, and light gray. So once I'm in here, what I'll do is I'll think about how do I, fit this bit of info on the page. Obviously, the important thing right here is the Scholars Day logo. That's the big point of everything. So I'm going to have it centered. What I might do is I might do a box with some color in it. And so I'm going to go grab just this rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle. It's going to have a photograph in it, so I can just use the rectangle tool. Now it's coming up empty, so I'll select the front color here. Or in the swatches, you'll see these 2 boxes. This is to give the stroke of the box a color, or the outline of the box a color. This is to give the fill, the inside of the box, a color. So this logo, or this icon here, is the one you want to use when you're going to give it a fill. So I'm going to select Wesleyan purple, and there it is. Now you'll notice that it's on top of the last thing. Like every new item you draw goes to the top layer, so it stacks on top of everything else. Okay. I want it to go behind everything else, so what I can do is select it, go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And there it is. It's behind everything. Now you notice that the EPS with Scholars Day is now transparent, so you can see through to whatever you have underneath. And these little jaggedy lines here, that's just a preview. It's going to look a lot better than that. The way you can view it, what it's really going to look like, if that bugs you, is you can go to View, and you can go to display performance and do high quality display, and that'll show you what your layout's actually going to look like after it's cleaned up. That's a little bit slower, but something like this, it's not going to be too bad. So then what you can do is you can start to place your text and figure out how to make this layout work. Like down here, what I might do, excuse me, is select my text. And again, I can triple click to select it all, or I can Command A on my keyboard to select it all, or I can click and drag from the start to the finish, or finish to the start. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick maybe New Times Roman bold for that and select it. And then in the character menu, and then I'm going to scale up my text and see what that looks like, and maybe I'll drop it over here. Now I've created an asymmetrical kind of balance here, right? I don't have this box right in the center, so I have to deal with this. Now if I just center this text up, I get this thing where I've got black text on top of purple. That never looks good. It doesn't read well. You don't have contrast. And then I've got black text on white, which gives us good contrast. So how do I deal with that? I could take that and I could position it completely on the white. That's one option. Something else I can do is I can give this its own background. So I'll select my rectangle tool again, and I'll just put a box here, and I'll give it a medium gray background. Again, that's the official medium gray, so we line up with all the requirements for the university. We don't fall afoul of any of those. And I'll kind of drag this and make sure it's on the margins of the page. And again, it's a new item, so I could either send it to back, or instead I could select this box of text, go to Object, and bring to front. Now being inside this rectangle, that gives me something I can center this up in. It looks better centered up. Okay, it makes that work. Instead of having this weird overlap here, I can do that. I could use it in black. I could select the text here and make it white, and that might be a better option. But I do have options here. I could go in and select the text and make it Wesleyan purple, which looks pretty good on this medium gray, but I bet it looks better on the light gray. So those are things I can do to kind of work on this. Now, this top part here, celebration of student achievement, maybe I want to kind of do the same thing where it's centered, but it has its own block of text there. So maybe we'll create another box, and maybe we'll fill that with medium gray. And again, I can object, arrange, send backward. We'll send it backwards one layer. I can keep sending it backwards. And you can learn these little key commands here, these shortcuts, where you can just hit those combined keys on your keyboard. That's the command key and the left bracket, and kind of cycle through really quickly. So maybe I like that, maybe I don't. I'm not sure, but now I want to take this, and I probably want to, again, keep it the same font that I've used down here. So I'll select that, and that was Times New Roman Bold. And maybe I'll take that and scale that up. I want to think about how these lines flow. And I can see that as I scale that up, I've got text overflowing here, so I need to increase the size of my box. And if I grab these, I can make that centered. And I don't like the way that looks with just the one word hanging down there at the bottom. So I will delete that space and do a return space. And so I can do that. Also, what I can do is, if I don't like the upper and lower case, I can select that text and go to my character palette, click, or I can actually, I think I could just select this box. Or let's get the contents of the box. Let's see what this does. Here, and do all caps, And there it's all caps. Now that's too large, so I'll shrink it down and make sure I get everything to fit in my space. But there we go. So that's something you can play around. And again, we could do something simple like, well, what if we want this top box here to be Wesleyan purple, and maybe this side goes to medium gray. Okay, and then maybe we do something like, okay, this is Wesleyan purple, and select our text and make it white, and do the same up here and make it, we could try light gray. It's a little subtle difference between the two. I think I like white better. So, and then we see there's this weird awkward space here, so maybe we'll bring that down and try to balance that space off a little bit. Something else is also, this font is the same as this font, so maybe I want this one to have a little more importance. So it can be a little bit larger. Again, we're going to run out of space, so we've got to watch that. But I can select this, and we could go a little bit smaller. Now we do that, we need to maybe adjust and try to center these vertically. Okay, so there's my document. I'm happy with that for now, for this demo anyway. Now I've got all these blue boxes here, and sometimes it's hard to see what your design really looks like with all of these guides. So what I'm going to do is go to View and go to Extras and do Hide Frame Edges, and that will hide all of the edges for your different elements you've used until you hover over them. So that gives you a little bit cleaner look at that. Okay, so let's say this is done. I'm going to save my document. I'm going to call it Scholars Program Cover, and I'm going to save it. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to export this. And what I want to do is I want to save it as some sort of image file. It won't be able to be edited outside of InDesign, but it'll be able to be placed inside the document. And the best way to do that is going to be, probably for this, is going to be to save it as a JPEG image. And I'll use the same name. I probably want to spell it correctly though. Scholar Program Cover. And I'll hit save. I'm going to save it into my assignment folder. I want to save the range of just one page. I want to save it as high quality. I want to save it baseline resolution. I'm going to save it as 300. That's the resolution you need to use for print. The color space, we want to convert this to CMYK, and that's the printing color space. We haven't gotten into that, but for this, you need to just make sure you're doing CMYK, and I'm going to export. And then what I should have is when I go to my folder,